What is up, everybody? It's France, and we're here for Unscripted episode number 115 for your Sunday, April 19th, 2020. We are getting our way through this pandemic bullshit, through the year 2020, which has been the absolute worst I have ever seen in my life. This week on especially was the absolute worst for everything WWE. Before we get into that, let's talk about this, the XFL. We knew last week they suspended operations. They want him playing coming back next year. I think, okay, if they suspend operations for this year, don't come back next year. Maybe when everything blows over and everything goes back to somewhat normal, they'll come back for 2022, and we'll see what happens there. No. Monday, Alpha Entertainment, XFL, files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The difference between Chapter 11 and Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is what the AAF went through, and the AAF had to liquidate all of its assets. Now, XFL having to suspend its season 5 weeks in and not even get to the end of the season, missing out on 5 weeks worth of ticket sales. The fact that the upper bowl in St. Louis for week 7 was being opened for the first time the entire season, and those tickets were selling pretty well, and they were opening more and more as they went. The XFL needed all that. The XFL needed to finish the season. If the XFL would have been around for 3-4 years and then this pandemic shit came around, and they had a paying TV contract, they could afford to skip and suspend the season. They could not. The XFL did not get to finish its season. It's a damn shame. This was supposed to be playoff week. I should be coming on here and being like, man, the West Conference is going to have to deal with such and such team. That's because they went out there and they kicked ass and got to the finals, which would be next Sunday. Fortunately, that ain't going to happen. Now, apparently there is a buyer. There are a couple buyers interested. And the XFL that we know from 2020 is dead. It's over. It's not coming back. Even if somebody or a bunch of guys, if a bunch of XFL fans who are really rich people and love the XFL and wants to keep it alive, puts their money together and buys all the assets, licenses, love of football, all that shit, and says, you know what, 2021 is not going to happen. We're going to go 2022. 2022, we're going to do it. We're going to do this. It's never going to be what we saw this past February and March. 2020 is going to be a special 5 weeks in the football pantheon. It was good. The ratings were going down, of course, as everything does originally. But here's the thing: if you look at the ratings for those first 5 weeks, they were above or neck and neck with the top ratings of the NBA, the NCAA, golf, NASCAR, and anything else that was going on at the time. So the XFL had so much promise, and for the most part it did do its job somewhat, with there being 24 plus players being picked up for the NFL, and I believe I keep seeing a few more here and there. But this is the last time on this channel, this graphic or any graphic with the XFL, unless some news happens and the XFL is bought up by somebody who wants to make a return and actually have them. And Vince McMahon should have never went into business with himself and just invested with himself. This should have been Vince and 2 or 3 other people throwing in as much cash as they can to make sure, even if the world came to the fucking end, there was this league would have survived past 1 year. It's a damn shame, but it is what it is, and the XFL is gone. But this time around was so much better, and it will be forgotten eventually, but it won't. It will be one of those things that if the NFL adopts the kicking rule, if the NFL adopts a couple other rules from it, then it will leave a lasting legacy, like it should have. Now back to WWE and other things that are going on. This week had to be the worst in WWE in a long while. This was one of the darkest, this past Wednesday was one of the darkest days in WWE history. We get a tweet. Someone tweeted out. I think it was Sean Massap or one of those insiders who tweeted out that Vince McMahon was on a conference call with everybody, with staff and everything, and it lasted about 5 minutes, telling them that they're going to furlough a lot of people in HQ. They're permanent cuts to the roster and many other things, making cutbacks everywhere because of what's going on. Before I leave the list, before I go anything else, WWE is the one company that did not need to do this. Everyone's losing money. Everybody's hurting. But WWE is so well off that they did not need to do this. They did not need to cut these jobs at this time. The fact that they cut these jobs knowing that there is no other work for these men and women to go do right now, because even though AEW is alive and well right now, they're taped through Howard May. They might not be signing anybody else. The Revival, who Cash Wheeler and Dax Hardwood, who are now probably going to be called the Revolt, are probably either signed, sealed, or delivered, or going to be signing, and then that's going to be it for now. I don't think AEW is going to be signing any of these people who are going to be on this list. I could be totally wrong. But Vince did hold a call with the employees during WWE. During the call, WWE will be furloughing staff. They're going to be notified via text. There will be a permanent talent cuts as well. Construction on the new Titan Tower is delayed for 6 months. Decreasing operation expenses, reducing executive and board member compensation. More details will be during the Q1 quarterlies next Thursday. The reason this happened, and they're going to save about what? $4 million. They're going to save $4 million. And the reason that this happened was simple. WWE has projections, just like any other publicly traded company out there. They have projection of how their company is going to do profit this year. From quarter 1 to quarter 4, what their projection is going to be. If they did not make these cuts, they would not meet their projections. Their stock continues to plummet. WWE made the necessary, in their minds, necessary cuts to keep the profits above the line that they projected. Talent that had been released: MJ Jenkins from NXT, Deonna Purrazzo from NXT, who honestly never got a goddamn chance. She was in, I think, the Mae Young Classic number 2 in 2018. She was hardly used on NXT, came up to Monday Night Raw a couple times to lose matches, and that was it. Deonna Purrazzo did nothing, and it's a damn shame that she never got the chance that a Chelsea Green is getting now, or other women who've come after her are getting. Alexander Jaksic, never heard of him. Rusev is gone, so not surprised there. Rusev wanted out a couple months ago. He's out now. I don't think he's going to ever go back. Maria and Mike Kanellis, who Mike wanted to leave a couple months ago and then re-signed the contract. Primo and Epico, when the fuck have we seen them last? Well, when was the last time we saw Primo and Epico? 2 years ago? Primo himself hasn't been relevant as a talent since his days with his brother, Carlito. When Primo and Carlito were the unified tag team champions, that was the last time he really did something under his actual name. Then they had Los Matadores, with Primo and Epico being those two Matadors with El Torito. But other than that, they haven't done anything. Surprised about Rowan, but we haven't seen Rowan since Drew McIntyre destroyed his cage that had that fake spider in it. Sarah Logan. Really shocked about this. Her husband, of course, is on Monday Night Raw with the War Raiders, or the Viking Raiders, whatever you want to call them. Surprised she's gone. Big shock here. Carol Anderson, Luke Gallows, who were in the Boneyard match being killed by The Undertaker, so they're gone. Which they have let it be known subtly that they're going back to Japan. So the Good Brothers will probably not be back in WWE even after all this is over. But I don't think they're coming back. EC3, gone. He's going to do what he wants to do. He's going to go to either Impact Wrestling, AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. He's not going back to WWE. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. He's been down this road twice. He's been burnt twice. EC3 ain't going back. Drake Maverick is an interesting one because just days before, like a week before this Black Friday or this Black Wednesday, Drake Maverick was announced for the 8-man 205 block G1 Climax type tournament. Now, instead of saying, well, we're going to replace him, WWE is going to allow Drake Maverick to compete in this tournament. Does that mean he's going to win? No, of course not. He's not going to win. But it's surprising that they let this guy go when he still has commitments to them. Kurt Hawkins and Heath Slater. I figured Heath Slater was a lifer. I figured WWE was going to give this guy a lifetime contract. He would end his career in the next few years, and he would go to NXT as a trainer and just be working with WWE as a trainer. Eric Young. When was the last time we saw Eric Young? Being squashed by Aleister Black, and before that being destroyed by Seth Rollins with the steel chair. Lio Rush. I'd have to say I'm surprised about Lio Rush. Not really. I must have missed his name too, but Zack Ryder has also been released from WWE. Which, that's another one. Like, Zack Ryder and Heath Slater are two guys that I figured with all that they've done for this company that they would be guys that would have that company, like, get that lifetime contract, and after they're done, they would be the new blood that would go down to help the old blood train the up and comers. Kurt Angle, gone. He was a producer backstage, but unlike most producers that we're going to talk about here in a minute, he was not furloughed, he was released. So Kurt Angle is gone. Maybe when all this blows over, we'll see him do a special spot in AEW. Maybe he'll go back to Impact Wrestling, be an authority figure there, which that would be fine by me or whatever he does. Dan Mather. Dan Mather, if I'm correct, is the guy who had a match on NXT. Then he had another match again on NXT against Samoa Joe and get absolutely demolished, and hasn't been seen since. Alyssa Marino, no idea. Tito Sabatelli, which we haven't seen Tito Sabatelli since him and Riddick Moss broke up about 2 years ago. And the funny thing is, they both got injured not too long after the match where they broke up took place. They were supposed to be, they break up, they have a feud, and then one of these guys gets elevated, one of these guys stays behind. Unfortunately, like a week, like one went after the other. I think it was Riddick got hurt first, then Tito got hurt. And both of them just, like, Riddick Moss, of course, is on Monday Night Raw now doing absolutely nothing. And Tino just hasn't been seen since. Cesar Bononi didn't do much on WWE. I think he was more in Evolve. He was the Evolve champion one time. He did more stuff with WWE with Evolve than he did on NXT television. Mars Wang, no idea. Tenora Conti, which actually there was a report back in January, I believe, that Tenora Conti went AWOL in WWE. And there was a possibility that she just took her stuff, cleaned out her locker, and left. Well, she came back in the middle of February, if I'm correct. So I think she wanted to leave. She had second thoughts. It's like, hey, I'm gonna let my contract run out. I'm gonna do this right. And hey, they let her go. Nick Kamoto, no idea. Rocky, no idea. Mohammed Fahim, no idea. Marcos Gomez, Fasil Kofi, Edgar Lopez, Hassan Al-Bagal, and unfortunately, the latest one that I know of is Cassius Ohno. Cassius Ohno, has been a journeyman in WWE. He came in when NXT first became the NXT that we know, was starting to become the NXT we know today. Then he was fired because WWE didn't like the fact that he didn't have a six-pack abs and his cardio wasn't up to snuff, even though go look at Cassius Ohno in like 2012, 13 when he's here the first time, and look at Cassius Ohno in his second run. Cassius Ohno in his first run looked thin as fuck compared to the guy we saw later on. Not fat shaming or anything, I'm just saying. So those are all the talent we know so far. Now, here's the thing about the talent on the main roster. Like, Rusev, Mike and Marie Kanellis, Primo, Epico, Rowan, Sarah Logan, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, EC3, Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, Heath Slater, Eric Young, and I believe Kurt Angle as well. They are under 90 days no compete clause, so by the time these men and women can actually go find a wrestling job and go wrestle somewhere, this entire thing might be over. That's 90 days from now. A lot can happen in 90 days. The entire pandemic thing could be worse. The entire pandemic thing could be absolutely over. In 90 days, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next week, or tomorrow, or the next day after that. But when it comes to Dan Mantha, Leo Rush, Alicia Morano, Tino Sabatelli, Cesar Bononi, Mars Wang, Tanara Conte, and everybody else in NXT, they're under a 30 days no compete clause. So they can actually work starting May 15th. I don't know why WWE does that, but that is what they do. So, along with these talents being released, the WWE furloughed a lot of their producers. Billy Kidman, who has been there since the death of WCW. Mike Rotunda, aka IRS, has been back since the death of WCW. Pat Buck, Fit Finley, who has been there minus a year where they fired him because of an angle that was done on a European tour, has been there since the death of WCW. Sean Navarre, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stark, Lance Storm, and Shane Helms. It's funny because Shane Helms, Navarre, and Lance Storm were all just recently hired. Now, these are all furloughed. They're not fired. They're not released. They're pretty much just told, hey, we have to put you on hold right now. We can't use you right now. When this is all over, and WWE's back on the tour bus, and going from city to city, they're going to need their producers. So each and every one of these men and women who are going to be back in WWE, they're not going anywhere. Aiden English was a massive, massive surprise to me being let go. Aiden English, I figured would have a job for life for one certain reason, one simple reason only. He's married to Eddie's daughter. He is married to Shaw Guerrero. He is Becky's son-in-law. And Eddie's son-in-law. And WWE when they released Simon Gotch, they didn't do anything to Aiden English. Aiden English went on to do more things. They keep finding more things for him to do because he's, by marriage, in the Guerrero family. So that one got me by surprise that they released Aiden English. I figured they'd give it to Byron Saxton first. Jerry Soto and John Quasato, no idea who either one of those are, Spanish language commentators. The biggest, hugest shock of all, referee Mike Chioda, who has been there since 1989, 31 years. This man has been in this company, not a year off, not a time off. He has been in WWE. And now he's without a job. That one is surprising to me 100%. This guy has been loyal since day fucking one. And they showed him the door. I thought he would get a lifetime contract. I figured Mike Chioda was under a lifetime contract. I mean, come on. The guy has been there since 1939. I'm not 39, but 89. It's crazy. That's how desperate Vince McMahon was. That's like, all these other ones, it was just like, it's nothing, whatever. And then you see Mike Chioda, it's like, oh shit, this is how desperate they are to get back under the cap. They could have let so many other people go, but Mike Chioda, of all people, is out of a job. Wow. You know, those guys in Jacksonville probably could use another referee, Chioda. Now, the only creative member was Andre Listenberger. Now, Listenberger apparently is one of the creative, if not the creative mind behind the Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Dolph Ziggler, and Otis love story that they're doing. Now, of course, that story continued on Monday on SmackDown this past Friday. That doesn't mean that this person got fired, that the story is going to end, because they could have things already planned out for this that Vince McMahon has approved of, and they're just going off of that. what Sonya Deville did on Friday was fucking fantastic. That's the best promo she's ever cut. And of course, Money in the Bank, we're going to be going to a Mandy Rose and Otis versus Dolph Ziggler and Sonya Deville mixed tag team match, which was supposed to happen at Mania, but that got switched down. Honestly, I think they're going the right way with this. And also released was Josiah Williams. Of course, Josiah Williams became a name in WWE circles because of his Wrestle and Flow channel music. He would sit there and he would take a theme of a WWE wrestler or a faction or group and do a rapper with it, with the theme behind them. The first one he did was the Undisputed Era, and a lot of us had no idea when Adam Cole went out to face Johnny Gargano in the rematch for the NXT Championship, which Johnny Gargano ended up losing, who this guy was, who this black skinny kid was, who's sitting here rapping to the Undisputed Era's theme and rapping Adam Cole out to this match. I didn't know who he was. I guarantee almost nobody knew who he was. He's fucking fantastic. I've actually seen every single one of his Wrestle and Flows on YouTube. Go check out Josiah Williams' YouTube channel. By the way, if you think his voice sounds familiar, somebody's voice sounds familiar, he also did the theme for Shawn Spears right before he got signed by WWE. So go check out Josiah Williams. He is fantastic. Like I mentioned, the NXT talent is under a 30 different no compete clause, which is 30 days. Nate Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter did report that we will probably see more cuts from NXT than WWE's main roster. I think the main roster, he believes that the main roster cuts are done, which surprisingly not. I'm surprised that Lana wasn't released and Bobby Lashley wasn't released because WWE could do without either of them. It would be the first time WWE does a storyline that they end up dropping because somebody got released. Then came Thursday. The greatest ring announcer of all time, Howard Finkel, 69 years old, passes away. He's been in poor health, and it wasn't COVID, it wasn't anything like that, it was just natural causes. The guy it was his time. When we all are born, we have, our bodies are tagged with a counter for how long your life is going to live. And the way you treat your body, if you do, you can extend that, or if you eat junk food and all that stuff, you can delete it, shorten it too. But some people just have one that goes to 106, then you have some that go to 35, and then you have Howard Finkel, who died at 69. He never heard one bad thing about this guy. I didn't know he was the first employee by WWE, but just going back in 2011 when CM Punk won the WWE Championship again from Alberto Del Rio, you had Alberto Del Rio had his personal ring announcer, so CM Punk wanted one himself, and he got Howard Finkel. So Howard is, and if you want to see him in a comedic version of himself outside of his few things in the Attitude Era, go check out Legends House. Even though Piper's not around anymore, I'm pretty sure one or two other people from that season, that show, have passed recently. But he was just I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, Howard Finkel was an ass backstage" or whatever. No, from every time I hear anything about Howard Finkel, it's always been good things. Just that classic, and new World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion of the World. I can't do a good Howard Finkel, but just the way he said it was iconic. Every time you see, when a new champion is won, the New Day winning the tag team titles, you see Fox's YouTube Twitter page typing out "and new," you want to sit there and say it in Finkel's voice. He just was a legend, an icon, and he was, as soon as they got rid of him, Justin Roberts is great, Lillian Garcia is great, Rich Hamilton is great, Mike Rome is great. All these ring announcers are great, but they're never going to be able to be as great as Howard Finkel was. Howard Finkel was, and will always be, the best ring announcer. JR is the best commentator ever. Howard Finkel is the greatest ever when it comes to ring announcing. Nobody will ever top him. For the simple fact is he made everybody, when somebody won the title and he said, no, he did it best. He did it better than anybody, and it's been a very sad week for WWE overall. From Black Wednesday to Finkel passing on Thursday. It sucks. Now, as we know, next moving on here, next year's WrestleMania is going to be at SoFi Stadium, supposedly. Now, the mayor, or the governor of the LA mayor, Eric Garcetti, confirmed Wednesday that the county may not authorize large event concerts or sporting events until 2021. If they enforce, it could hurt WrestleMania 37. It's difficult to imagine us getting together in thousands anytime soon, Garcetti at the coroner's his COVID-19 briefing. We've got many miles to walk before we're going to be going back in those environments. First off, you're a dumbass, and second off, if you're up for election this year, I guarantee if you even try to bar people from doing that, you can kiss your mayor, you being mayor, goodbye. But Kathy also confirmed that large gatherings may not be approved for at least 1 year. One big hit from this is the new SoFi Stadium complex, which was scheduled to launch in July but has been delayed due to the pandemic ongoing fear-mongering. Construction does continue to take place despite the pandemic. While work has stalled in some places, Inglewood and other big cities around the country are still working. The company overseeing the stadium work is taking every precaution and using social distancing measures, which, if you're doing social distancing and you're trying to do every precaution, that's going to slow the construction down completely. So it could be something that it's going, like, the SoFi Stadium launch is going to be delayed. It has been confirmed already. But there's this fucking mayor is that stupid that, oh, we're going to take a year before we get back to large gatherings. Give me a fucking break, you stupid ass motherfucker. It's dumbasses like you that's got this fucking country all fucked up. Give me a fucking break. A lot of things, like, that's 300, like, from Wednesday, if it's 365 days from this past Wednesday, things are going to be, like, things change so fast within a week. Now, like I said earlier, things could be better within a week, they could be worse in a week. We don't fucking know. The fact that you're gonna sit there and say, "Oh, we're gonna bar large gatherings between now and next year," you're a fucking idiot. You're just as bad as that Dr. Fauci hack who's sitting there with the worst fucking president we've ever had, making up bullshit lies and estimating way worse than it's going to be. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated what's going on. WWE is thinking of, like, WWE, unlike this past WrestleMania where they had about 3 or 4 weeks before WrestleMania to try and figure out what the fuck they were going to do, they have almost a year. So if this stupid idiot keeps this, like, large gatherings from collecting for at least a year, which would be asinine at best, they have a long time to have any contingency plan that they can. Las Vegas, Tampa Bay, which probably would like to have WrestleMania anyway. Again, which looks like that might be 2022 if it isn't 2021. There are so many different other ways that WWE can sit there between now and WrestleMania next year if they can't have it at SoFi Stadium. There's so many other places that can be like, you know what? Los Angeles wants to be a fucking dumbass mayor. We'll take it. We'll take WrestleMania. Here's the money for your WrestleMania. Give us the WrestleMania. We'll do whatever the fuck you want. Now, going back to Black Wednesday and then the day after. Thursday was said to be a rough day for WWE staff due to the fallout from the Wednesday cuts, according to PW Insider. It was noted that employees were being acclimating to the new normal, with so much of the company being released or furloughed. Yeah. One source noted on PWI that it felt like 40% of the company was gone versus the day before, and some spoke of having some form of survivor's guilt because friends and co-workers were let go while they kept their jobs. This happens all the time, especially when a company has mass layoffs and you keep your job, but no, if you are one of those cubicle people and like you sitting across from somebody else, and you and that person struck up a bond, and you guys are like friends, and you're helping each other out to get your jobs done, your work done, and you kept your job and he didn't. That's gonna fucking piss you. That's going to give you a bad mood. You're gonna be in a bad mood. You're gonna be like just not happy with the fact that I kept my job, but my buddy didn't. Or this coworker who has been awesome to be around lost their job while I kept mine. What makes me better than them? Why do I keep my job but they lose theirs? Somebody tell me this. It was said that this is a rough time as the remaining employees have much more work to do on their plate moving forward, and the company has less manpower to get the work done. The cuts were across the board, and every division live events was hit very hard because they're not touring due to COVID-19. WWE Digital also suffered many cuts. And on top of that, Howard Finkel's passing added to the rough day. So Wednesday was bad. Thursday was even worse because Wednesday wasn't as bad as you feel it would be for the superstars who got fired, released and stuff. It is what it is. But people who are working in corporate who probably didn't expect their jobs to be gone, or maybe a buddy of theirs or a really good coworker that they like to hang around with or help out, losing them to this, and you still keeping your job. It's rough. Of course, Wednesday, it's the shock value. You're just shocked. You're surprised. Wow, I kept my job. Why did these people lose theirs? The next day you come in, and there's a lot of people who come in and it's like, hey, Frank. Oh, that's right. You don't work here anymore. Hey, Sue. Oh, shit. These guys lost their jobs, but I kept mine. Why do I keep mine, but they lose theirs? It's going to happen. I'm not saying WWE's survivor's guilt thing isn't something that that's just something you see at WWE. It happens everywhere. If EA lays off 100 workers, I guarantee you, people who are close to them, those people in that job, have the same feeling. The next day after a mass layoff is not fun, and I don't think WWE's done after Wednesday and Thursday. It might be going for the next few days. Hundreds and hundreds of people have said they'll lose their jobs in WWE. New Japan, though. New Japan usually by now is touring all of Japan, doing all these shows. The anniversary tour. They had a Tiger Hattori supposed to have a I think they got to that one. They were supposed to have a retirement tour for one of their stars, and they were supposed to do all this stuff. The G1 Supercard, the G1, no, not Supercard. The G1 Supercard with Ring of Honor. That they were gonna have a tournament coming up soon. I don't remember what it's actually called. New Japan Cup, I believe it is. Yeah, all of that got wiped away when COVID-19 became as big as it was because people are fucking stupid and they listen to the media. But anyway, so New Japan had to cancel all their shows. And they're scheduled to return May 12th with the best of the Super Juniors. If that is to happen, that is going to be that's going to be needed. I'm hoping they can. I hope May 12th they can be back with the best of Super Juniors because my word, we need something in this world. I mean, the Korean baseball, the Chinese baseball league, and the Taiwan baseball league, whatever they fucking call it, came back and played without any fans, and it just doesn't wrestling's hard to watch without fans. We need fans. New Japan and other promotions had a meeting with Japanese Minister of Education, Culture, Sports Science, and Technology Hiroshi Hase earlier this week, and they advocated for the government to provide COVID-19 test kits and the compensation to their smaller companies to help their pay employees. Other measures New Japan had put into place during the COVID garbage were revealed earlier this week. They also reports that all wrestling staff in the promotion are still receiving their full salaries and benefit, though New Japan Pro Wrestling is generating nothing in revenue. No revenue. New Japan is heavy reliant on running live shows as more than half their income is ticket sales and merch sales at these events. When you watch these events, and I've watched many New Japan events over the last year, you see these men and women and kids, children, having all these items, from sign, one of those cats that Tanahashi brings out with him. Those, I guarantee you, they don't bring those from home. They buy them when they're there. or the Rainmaker gun shooter thing that Kazuchika Okada uses. If they sell a toy version of that, I guarantee you, mommy and daddy have to buy that for their kid. It's just they like New Japan gets a lot. They don't have a TV contract. They don't have a big TV deal in Japan for this company. Everything from them is ticket sales and revenue from the merch sales. So I don't know how they're able to pay full salary and benefits and won't go under. New Japan, I commend them for doing it. I'm not going to say they're bad for doing it, but I don't know how New Japan comes out of this without being hurt more than they do, because they are spending a lot for this to happen. Even in a private meeting, the promotion made it clear that the health of their employees is a top priority and will not run a show until health of the talent can be guaranteed. Hopefully, that is very soon. Now, New Japan just showing you that health for your talent is more than the almighty dollar. WWE puts the almighty dollar over the talent. That's why we have Black Wednesday. That's why 20-some superstars were released. A couple and other people were released, and all producers except for Kurt Angle, who got let go right now, were furloughed, because WWE and Vince McMahon has to have all the money he can have his projections, because Vince McMahon and WWE know they're probably not going back to Saudi Arabia this year because of everything that's going on. So WWE is going to be losing a lot of money in the third or fourth quarter, where they usually have that Saudi money. WWE has this huge projection, and they have to meet that projection, even though they would not be the first company to fail to meet a projection and survive. Now, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. We already went over this, we'll talk about it again. WWE was supposed to start taping 5 weeks in a row, leading up to Money in the Bank, for Raw and SmackDown and NXT, all last week. Then we got to Friday, and Vince McMahon was like, nope, we're going back to be live. We're going to go live week in and week out. Basically because Vince McMahon had the fear struck into him that if they don't go live, then Fox and the USA Network, NBC Universal, are going to withhold the money from them that they are owed, because in the contracts, they are only allowed 3 8 shows a year. That is both tours for the UK tours that they do, which WWE is not going to get at least one of those this year, and the Christmas specials that they do at the end of the year. That was it. Everything else has to be live for Raw and SmackDown. WWE, I don't know what NXT's contract is. I've never seen anything or anyone talk about what they get, what the deal is for NXT, how much they're allowed to tape or be live. So Vince McMahon decided last Friday, we're gonna go live starting this Monday. Got through Monday, got through Wednesday, come to Friday, and then we come to yesterday. And WWE, again, Vince McMahon changes his mind, altering taping schedule again in the name of performers' safety, in quotations. Vince McMahon changes his mind. As we know, WWE was supposed to take weeks of TV leading up to the Money in the Bank, which is giving the talent time off with their family and keep them safe as possible, doing what AEW and Impact Wrestling are doing and have been doing. Then, at the last little seconds, because SmackDown last week, not this past Friday, but last week, was taped earlier in the day. They were going to tape that first episode of SmackDown, do a couple more that day, and then do it on Saturday as well. But then Vince McMahon's like, we're going live next week. Then WWE decided last week they would be doing live shows every week from the PC and Full Sail for NXT. Move baffled by many outside the company and worry for the talent within the company, since there's a recommended 2-week quarantine for those exposed people if they want to lessen the risk to their families, like pregnant wives and older relatives, meaning talent couldn't go home to their families, putting the strain on the talent and the talent's family. Like in AEW, Matt Hardy's wife has said that she is not, like, her husband is not allowed. She put her foot down. It's over, it's done. Matt Hardy, you're not allowed to leave the compound until this shit is over. But if Matt Hardy was contracted to WWE would be like, no, Matt, get your ass back here. Now, of course, difference between WWE and AEW in this. Both companies have said, if you don't want to work this right now, then you don't have to. It won't be held against you. Why are most talent working in WWE while most talent in AEW are not? Simple reason. Nobody trusts Vince McMahon. Everybody has trust in Tony Khan because Tony Khan hasn't given people a reason not to trust him when Vince McMahon has given countless reasons why the talent should not ever fucking trust his word. That is why AEW has taped weeks in advance and why we have seen the same cast of characters week in and week out in AEW. While WWE, we see the main stars and talent that probably would rather be at home for at least 5 weeks from all of this after the 2-week quarantine, of course. WWE has come to the middle of the round of sorts, although it's still not the best WWE had laid out last week. Pro Wrestling Sheet confirms that Raw, NXT, and SmackDown will go from live to taped starting April 25th. So next week is going to be live. They're going to tape Raw and SmackDown and NXT for 2 weeks after, and then they'll come back after that. The company taping 2 shows per night is currently scheduled out until July 8th. It still means the performance can't take the quarantine period, but it means they have some time off between tapings and they'll be taking fewer flights while this pandemic goes on. On the less travel, the better, but of course the plans can change at any time. So that is Vince McMahon's great idea. Now, as we know, Vince McMahon changed his mind last Friday. Vince McMahon changed his mind yesterday. For all we know, we get to Monday Night Raw, whenever the fuck, if it's live on Monday. We get to Monday Night Raw and Vince McMahon's like, scrap all those plans. We're going back to being live as we said last week. Now, something came out, which we'll talk about in a minute, that I didn't have when I started doing this, when I had all my notes and everything, but it came out as I'm about ready to record this. We'll talk about it in a minute. But Vince McMahon is one of those guys that we all know. He changed his mind on a dime. That's why during the entire wildcard rule era last year, which was a couple months of hell, Vince McMahon would come into the show, look it up and down, look the script up and down, rip it up, and write it all while the show was going on Mondays for sure. SmackDown never heard that much about it until Eric Bischoff was brought in as the executive director, which he did absolutely nothing. But WWE it's not WWE on this, it's Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon just cannot decide one way or the other. He's got to change his mind constantly. Vince McMahon changes his mind every second, it feels like. For all we know, Vince McMahon decided to do tapings at the end of SmackDown last night. Woke up this morning, was like, nope, we're gonna stay live. A couple hours later, well, let's go back to taping. We'll tape every other week. Then he would go. So I was like, no, forget that. We're gonna go live, and he's just back and forth. Now, a lot could but hell, for all I know, while I'm recording this, he might have changed his mind again, and everything I just told you about that final review, that final note right there, was bullshit. It's just, I would hate. And John Moxley said this in an interview, I don't remember what it was, but he said he would rather work at McDonald's than ever go back to WWE. That's some strong words from the AEW Heavyweight Champion. He would rather work at a McDonald's, and trust me, I've worked at McDonald's and that shit fucking sucks, than work in WWE. I don't blame him. I mean, just look at the former Revival. Apparently, there was these sketches that of these two in looked like what from the sketches that I saw, it looked like what Brian Kendrick and Paul London used to wear when they didn't have a tag team name, when they were a tag team, and they were supposed to be a comedy group. This was the last meeting that Vince McMahon had with these guys before they were sent home. He wanted to make them a comedy group, give them new theme music, change the direction of them, and thankfully these two said, fuck no. Of course, somebody asked Cash Wheeler, is there any truth to that? And Cash Wheeler said, I plead the fifth. So basically he's telling you, yes, Vince McMahon wanted to make us a comedy group, and it's fucking stupid. This guy has got to go. Even after this pandemic's over, Vince McMahon has got to go. He can't keep changing. He can't keep changing his mind and throwing his talent under the bus like this, and just back and forth, back and forth. Oh, we're gonna do this. Oh, we're gonna do that. Back and forth, back and forth. We're gonna tape. We're gonna go live. We're gonna tape. We're gonna go live. I have hair right now. I have a nice full head of hair. If I worked for Vince McMahon at this time and he kept going between taped and live, taped and live, taped and live, I probably would pull it out. You probably wonder why Paul Heyman has almost no hair now, because he probably lost it dealing with Vince McMahon. How his son-in-law and his daughter can even put up with him and his son, I don't fucking know. He's a maniac. He's insane. And I'm glad I don't work for WWE. I would love to be in the wrestling business more than anything else, but I would not want to be in WWE. NXT, love NXT to death, wish it could go back to being an hour taped. Would not ever want to put myself through dealing with Vince McMahon. Even having to, if Vince McMahon walked in the room, I would be out the door the other way. This guy is just a cancer to this business. WWE will never get to the heights it could get until Vince McMahon is done and is out of there. WWE has so much talent. Yes, they just let go 20 plus talents. They let go of some really good talent in Rusev, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows, who are apparently going back to New Japan. Deonna Purrazzo, I feel so bad for this woman. She got signed 2 years ago, and they never did a damn thing with her. It's like they signed her. She, honestly, to me, felt like they signed her so she would go nowhere else, even though AEW didn't exist yet and wasn't even a thought yet. But they signed her, and they didn't use her at all. Why even sign her? It's just a shame. Just a shame. This company, they should have did the 5 weeks of taping. They tape 5 weeks on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. It gives these talent. I would go 6 weeks, but I like how the fact that they obviously taping Money in the Bank. They're not going to do the Money in the Bank ladder matches from Titan Tower live. Are you kidding me? That shit's going to be taped. So why not just do what you did for WrestleMania? You tape all the way to Money in the Bank. You tape the week after Money in the Bank, and then you can come back at You tape the Monday after Money in the Bank, the NXT after Money in the Bank, and then you come back for a live edition of SmackDown after Money in the Bank. You do 5 more tapings if this is still going on, which probably will not be as much. But if you have to, you come back and week the Friday after Money in the Bank, you tape 5 more episodes there. You tape on Sunday and Monday 5 episodes of Raw, and then Monday or Tuesday and Wednesday you tape 5 episodes of NXT, and then you let these talents go home and be with their families after a 2-week quarantine, which means they only get 3 weeks with their family, but hell, that's still 21 days compared to 0 days with how things are going right now. Could you imagine that Daniel Bryan, whose wife is pregnant at this time, she's still pregnant with the second child. Brie has to, I'm not a big fan of Brie as a talent, but as a person, I'm not going to say anything bad about the woman who's carrying a second child and having to care for their first child, while Daniel Bryan has to be on the road and be in quarantine away from his family because WWE are fucking stupid, listening to a 70-plus-year-old senile old fool who does not give a shit about anything but his goddamn self and his goddamn money. He drained the XFL or whatever the fuck they had left. There's no goddamn way that company, that entity couldn't have survived this pandemic and going into next year. He was just too afraid that because of everything that's going on, he was never going to get the TV right deal that he was hoping he was going to get. Well, Vince, it ain't my fault that you can't keep your stock up high enough so that if you needed to, you could like sell a couple more shares, get a little bit more money to help keep the XFL alive. If you really gave a fuck about the XFL, this like the way the XFL went out, and the way that Vince McMahon filed for Chapter 11, put it up for sale, which he should have did in the first place. If Vince McMahon really cared about getting the XFL off the ground and getting it to be a viable spring league, a winners / spring league football, he would have done everything in his fucking power to keep that thing alive. But he didn't. They did everything right up until the beginning. Up until the end at week 5. They did everything right. It's not their fault. And Vince McMahon shafted the entire organization because he only wanted this was only a hobby to him. Don't get it twisted. Anything that is not WWE that Vince McMahon sticks his teeth into to try and do, from the the WBF, World Bodybuilding Federation, to the World, to the XFL 2001, to the XFL 2020, it's only a hobby. It's not his main priority. WWE, till the day he fucking dies, will be Vince McMahon's main priority. Nothing before, nothing after. And honestly, that sucks. I wish the XFL could have made it. I wish WWE would do the right thing and get Vince McMahon out. Because Vince McMahon is the problem. He has always been the problem. He will always be the problem. And until this company until these board of directors come together and do a vote of no confidence, and I mean a unanimous vote, not one of these pity votes who think, oh well, he knows what he's doing, he's just having a rough time. No. After this is all said and done, the very first thing the board of directors need to do is have a meeting, realize that Vince McMahon is not in their best interest for this company anymore, and they vote him out. Because he's not going to go out himself. The only reason that you don't want that to happen is because they decide who takes over, and that's where we get a Jim Herd. And honestly, I know you don't, and I know nobody wants that to happen. So if Vince McMahon wants his company to have a chance to survive without a Jim Herd type person being in charge, he should step down and give the reins to his family. Just put it in there and say it's a 50-50-50 split between Stephanie, Shane, and Triple H. Whatever the fuck they want to do. Triple H gets NXT, Stephanie gets SmackDown or Raw, and Shane gets SmackDown. They get to run it their own way, and that is that. And then you can split the WWE up into quote unquote 3 different companies because Shane runs SmackDown, Steph runs Raw, and Triple H runs NXT and NXT UK, which I count into that. I don't think WWE really is going to care. Now, they haven't been mentioned other than Cassius Ohno, but I have a feeling that we might not see an NXT UK anymore. I think NXT UK might be going down with this. And the thing is, WWE is not going to tell us most of the NXT UK crowd is going to be going down. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, yes, WWE wanted to get into NXT Japan, want to make an NXT Japan, buy up a small company and make them the stopgap for NXT in Japan. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that should happen. WWE will not survive in Japan. Trying to do WWE style in Japan isn't going to fucking work. But NXT UK might be the one that gets the axe. Title will be retired, talent all being released, who knows? Again, everything that happened on Wednesday did not need to happen. Vince McMahon just did it because he's greedy. He's a greedy, psycho, son of a bitch who only cares about his bottom dollar. Anybody who, they put out a report, they put out a statement saying they have enough money in the savings of the company that they didn't have to do this. This was just a way to expand their profit margins. If I'm anybody who's in that company and I hear that you let these people go and you didn't have to, but you did because of your greedy selves, I went out. Plain and simple. I don't want to work for a company that's going to disrespect people like that because of their fucking greed. Now I know that's most of the big companies in this world nowadays, but give me a fucking break. You could have done something else. I know WWE, and here's the thing: WWE is not losing as much as they want to make you sound like they're losing. Raw and SmackDowns have been money losers. The gates have been losing money. The house show circuit has been losing fucking money. So WWE is not losing as much as they want you to believe. The fact that, oh, they're going to save $4 million, that's a drop in a hat to Vince McMahon, a multi-billionaire. This guy just, oh, it's like, I wonder if I'm the only one who thinks that if I saw Vince McMahon in front of me, I would just pop his lights out just for the fucking hell of it, for being such a jackass. Am I the only one who thinks that? I mean, it's never going to happen because Vince McMahon's never seen in public. And I haven't been outside of my city, my town. I'm not a city, my town, or village, whatever you want to call it. Probably in a couple of years, and I don't think the WWE is going to be coming through my little town in lower half of Ohio. Don't think that's happening. So I'm not going to be like one of those people who's like, okay, I'm going to make my mission to see Vince McMahon and punch him out or something. No. Just, it's one of those things, if I just happen to run into him, I would probably just pop him for one and say, I think it's time, and like, that's what that's for everybody that you stabbed in the back and made feel like they were less than they are. But again, that ain't going to happen. Vince McMahon is terrible. This didn't need to happen. And then on top of that, the very next day, Howard Finkel passes away. It was just a bad week. And then we had SmackDown, which wasn't bad. It wasn't great because if the crowd's not there, it's not going to be great. I don't care if you're having 4 or 5-star classics on a show. I don't care if you're having the match of the year on a show. If you don't have the fucking crowd, it doesn't fucking matter. Boneyard match in Firefly Funhouse excluded because those matches were set up that way. If you don't have a crowd, it just doesn't work. This company just needs to get their shit together. One other thing. On Saturday, Dustin Rhodes, Cody put out AEW or Cody put out a teaser for the next Road to, which they've been doing since I believe. Well, they've been doing since the company began, pretty much, but they've been doing every week for a couple months now. It's the fact that Dustin left a message on Cody's answer machine that he knows that Kip Sabian is no joke. He is a bad dude, super bad dude. But if he can't beat that son of a bitch, he said, he will retire. Now, I don't think Dustin's going anywhere. I don't think Dustin's retiring. I don't think they're going to have Kip Sabian versus Lance Archer in the semifinal rounds. Give me a fucking break. Kip Sabian is going to lose to Dustin on Wednesday. Dustin's going to go into the match against Lance Archer. And that's going to be one of those matches to help Lance Archer. It's going to help make Lance Archer look like it's going to help, like, solidify Lance Archer as a beast. Trading this guy who looks fantastic. Looks in the prime of his career, even though he's like on the slow end of his prime, but he still looks fantastic, and it's somebody that you should take as a guy. They call him a natural for a reason. He's fucking fantastic. He's good at what he does. But Jericho put out a video saying like all this good stuff about Dustin. He can't wait to call his final match, and it's all going to be over after this Wednesday. He had a Dustin Rhodes t-shirt on. He's a fan of his. The guy's been doing it for so long, since the 80s. Dustin is just one of those guys that he's the natural because he was so good at it. You're not going to find a guy like Dustin Rhodes anywhere else anytime soon. So that is what they're doing. They're raising the stakes to give you more interest to see this match. Dustin's not losing. Because do you really think we need to see Kip Sabian versus Lance Archer in a TNT title tournament match? That would look awful. that, like Kip Sabian would go out there and just get absolutely murdered, and you don't want to put a heel versus a heel. Predictions for this Wednesday: Dustin over Kip Sabian and Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. I can't go either way. Either one can win. Darby could win to make it 3 out of 3, like the rubber match between him and Cody, and Sammy could win, which I think I'm gonna go with Sammy. Sammy's gonna win because it keeps the Elite versus the Inner Circle feud. It's still there on life support. It's on life support because this whole shit that's going on, but it keeps it in people's minds that hey, these two factions are feuding. Here's a little preview of what Blood and Guts will be like when it happens, which should happen at the first live show with fans. Just saying. Not much else to talk about here. I hope you like my rambling. If you don't, that's okay. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. Find me on Instagram at The France Club. And I'll see you guys Tuesday for the Monday Night Raw review. Until then, my name is France, and I'll see you guys later.